Hey guys, here we've got the latest stock of the town, the new Perodua Ativa. And remember, it's Ativa and not the Ativa. So anyway, here we got a simple comparison video between the new SUV versus the perennial bestseller in Malaysia, the third generation Myvi. And just for fun, we've got that as well, the Proton X50. Here we're going to do a quick comparison in terms of the pricing, the size, interior size, build quality, as well as a simple comparison in terms of driving experience. Let's go. When it comes to buying a brand new car, the most important factor is always going to be the price point. How much is the car's priced? Over here, these three cars all cover very different price ranges. The Myvi over here is clearly the cheapest of the lot, starting from 40 to 50,000 ringgit. The Ativa is a clear step up from 60 to 70,000 ringgit. The Proton, meanwhile, is a whole different class up. It's from 80 to 100,000 ringgit. So clearly these cars are not fighting in the same class. They are made for different people. They are very different target markets for these three cars. And talking about price, the next big thing of course is the maintenance cost. So let's talk about that now. There is a big question mark over the Ativa's maintenance cost because this being a turbocharged car, a lot of people are saying that it's surely going to cost a lot more to maintain, to own, compared to a regular NA Myvi. But believe it or not, we've done the math, and according to Perodua, these two cost virtually the same over the first 5 years or 100,000 kilometers. These two cars is going to cost you about 3,200 ringgit. That's based on regular servicing only. That one over there, the Proton, is going to cost you over 50% more. That's going to be almost 5,000 ringgit. Now let's move on to the size difference. These three cars are all technically B-segment vehicles, but clearly there is a vast difference in terms of size. Let's use the Myvi as a benchmark here because, of course, everybody knows the size of a Myvi, right? Starting with this as the baseline, the Ativa is clearly one or two classes up. It is about 200 millimeters longer and a full 100 millimeters taller in terms of height. But bigger than that is the difference in terms of styling. While the Myvi is more rounded, very low slung at the front, this one is very upright. The hood over here is very, very high and everything is pretty much straight cut. So put these two cars side by side and the difference is dramatic. It looks like a whole different cars. It's not even from the same family even. Now let's move on to the Proton X50, which again is another class up. This is over 300 millimeters longer than the Ativa, and if you look at the shape, these are again very, very different machines. This is a much more sculpted, much more modern looking car, whereas the Ativa is a lot more boxy, very old school, tall SUV design. Between the two, it'll depend on your own personal preferences, of course. I much prefer the more modern look of the X50, but there will be a lot of people who prefer the tall, high riding look of this new Perodua SUV. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now let's move on to interior space, and here we are in the latest Perodua Ativa. The front seat is in my own driving position, and in the back here I've got, sorry I didn't bring any tennis balls, so I have to use a water bottle as a measurement tool. It's fine, right? We all know how big a water bottle is. And I've got slightly less than a height of a small water bottle of legroom left. Now let's go see the Myvi, whether it's got more or less legroom. And now we are in the Myvi with the front seat to my driving position, and there you go. The bottle can actually fit, so we've got about 3 to 4 centimeters more legroom here compared to the physically bigger Ativa. Yep, I was surprised as well. Now move on to the X50, let's go. And now finally we're in the X50 and the front seat is in my position. I mean, it is my car. And there you go. We've got about the same legroom as the Myvi. So yeah, it is slightly more spacious compared to the Ativa. But moving beyond space, this is clearly the much more comfortable cabin to be in. I've got rear aircon vents over here. It's the only one of the three to have rear aircon vents. And the seats themselves are far more comfortable here than the other two. Now, let's move on. Now to us Malaysians, the boot space can be just as important, if not more important, than the rear legroom itself, because this is one of the reasons why we're looking at a bigger car instead of a smaller sedan anyway, right? And here in these three cars, it's another big proof that size is not everything. Size can be deceiving in terms of interior room. Now this is the X50, it looks the biggest on the outside, but the interior here, the boot space is actually smaller than the Ativa. Here we've got 330 litres, while if we move on to the Ativa's boot, here we've got 369 litres, smaller car on the outside but bigger on the inside. Now move on to the perennial favourite of Malaysians, the Perodua Myvi. This here has 277 litres of space, so the Ativa is about 30 to 40% bigger in terms of boot space. That is a big upgrade. Now on to build quality, you'll be surprised to know that the Ativa and the Myvi have pretty much the same level of build quality. There's not that big of a difference in terms of feel or quality materials over here. The plastics used are about the same level, similar kind of finishing, similar kind of fit and finish. But the only thing that lifts up the Ativa above the Myvi is in terms of slightly fancier use of textured plastics. Like over here, we've got some diamond pattern on the plastics over here, as well as there, plus more layered construction to the dashboard. It's little things like that that make it look more expensive than the Myvi. But strictly in terms of quality, yeah, it's about the same. But get into the Proton and suddenly there's a huge, massive jump in terms of build quality. Immediately you feel the premiumness of this cabin. There's a lot of soft touch plastics, there's fancier materials, better finish. So yeah, in terms of build quality, there is absolutely no contest. The Myvi and Ativa is about the same. The Proton is a few levels above that. So if that is your biggest concern when looking for a new car, it's this one or nothing. Now on to driving experience. Again, there is a big difference between these two. The Ativa is already a big improvement over the Myvi, especially in terms of refinement, cabin noise, ride comfort, and even performance, with this being a turbocharged engine and all that. But having said that, it's still a few levels below the Proton. In terms of performance, the Ativa here has a 1-litre turbo engine, while the Proton has a 1.5-litre turbo engine. Both cars have 3 cylinders. But despite the Proton being over 400 kilograms heavier than the Ativa, it is still the much faster vehicle here if you drive it side by side. There's also the transmission, where this uses a double clutch transmission and the Ativa uses a CVT. The driving experience are very, very different indeed. I think if you're moving up from a regular automatic, this will feel a lot more natural. But if you're used to a CVT, this shouldn't be a problem for you. On the plus side, because of the smaller engine over here, you do have an advantage in terms of road tax, where you only pay 20 ringgit a year for this one, but 120 for that one. But then again, 100 bucks for cars that cost this much, it's not really a big deal. The Ativa is a significant step up from the Myvi, but the X50 is yet another big step ahead still. Don't forget though, there's a big gap in terms of pricing between the Myvi and Ativa, and an even bigger one to the X50. In this case, you do get what you pay for, and spending more gets you the better quality product. Having said that, all 3 models here are still very good buys in their own price markets. So there you go, a quick look at the new Perodua Ativa. As the prices would suggest, there is a clear jump at each one of these cars, where the Ativa fits nicely in between the Myvi and the Proton X50. But don't worry, we'll have a much more detailed, much more comprehensive full review of the new Perodua Ativa coming out very soon, where we will cover pretty much everything you want to know about it. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of this video in the comment section below. Thank you and stay safe.